All right, pickles. Tonight we'll finish Socrates' predecessors. And so we'll start with a man named Anaxagoras, circa 500 to 428 BCE. He was from a place called Clazomenae, a coastal town in which is now Turkey. He later moved to Athens, where he was in the company of the statesman Pericles. His major philosophical contribution was the concept of mind, in parentheses nous, which he distinguished from matter. Anaxagoras agreed with Empedocles that all coming into and going out of being consists merely in the mixture and separation of already existing substances. But he rejected Empedocles' ambiguous and somewhat mythical notions of love and hate, by which various objects supposedly form. For Anaxagoras, the world and all its objects were well ordered and intricate structures. There must, then, be some being with knowledge and power that organizes the material world in this fashion. Such a rational principle is such a rational such such a ras such a rational principle is what Anaxagoras proposed in his concept of mind, or nous, Nous. According to Anaxagoras, the nature of reality is best understood as consisting of mind and matter. Before mind has influenced the shape and behavior of matter, matter exists as a mixture of various kinds of material substances, all uncreated and imperishable. Even when this original mass of matter is divided into actual objects, each part contains portions of every other element, in parentheses thing, and then in another parentheses, spermata or seeds. Snow, for example, contains the opposites of black and white and is what Snow, for example, contains the opposites of black and white and is called white only because white predominates in it. In a sense, then, each part contains what is in the whole of reality, since each has a special portion of everything in it. According to Anaxagoras, separation is the process by which this matter formed into various things, and such separation occurs through the power of mind. Specifically, mind produced a rotary motion, causing a vortex that spread out to encompass more and more of the original mass of matter. This forces a separation of various substances. This rotary motion originally caused a separation of matter into two major divisions: one mass that contained the warm, light, rare, and dry, and a second mass that contained the cold, dark, dense, and moist. This process of separation is continuous, and there is constant progress in the process of separation. Particular objects are always combinations of substances in which some particular substance predominates. For example, water predominates with the elemental stuff moistness, but nevertheless has all other elemental things present. Describing this process in one of the preserved fragments of his last book, Anaxagoras writes that mind set in order all things that were to be and now and that will be. I do believe that in a sense. I don't know if this is, I kind of think this is related to the same type of situation, but like going back in time or something, with the same data, you'd make the same choice. So, that's how I read that. Mindset and matter, all things that were to be and are now and that will be. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's just fate, destiny. I think those things are predetermined based on our personalities and our way of decision making. I don't think, and then like they said earlier, maybe there is a writer or an orchestrator that put it all into this order so it could occur. Could very well be. All right. Well, all right. I'll say it again. Mindset and matter, all things that were to be and are now and that will be. And this revolution in which now revolve the stars and the sun and the moon and the air and the ether which are separated off. The revolution itself caused the separating off, and the dense is separated off from the rare, the warm from the cold, the bright from the dark, and the dry from the moist. And there are many portions of many things. That's the end of his writing from his last book. Emphasizing the continued mixture of things, he says that no thing is altogether separated off from anything else except mind. Forces set in motion in the vortex account for the appearance of the thick and moist at the center and the thin and warm at the circumference, that is, of the earth and the atmosphere. The forces of rotation also caused red hot masses of stones to be torn away from the earth and to be thrown into the ether. And this is the origin of the stars. The earth, originally mud, was dried up by the sun and fertilized by germs contained in the air. Everything, even now, is animated by mind, including life in plants and sense perception in human beings. Mind is everywhere, or as Anaxagoras says, mind is there where everything else is in the surrounding mass. Although Anaxagoras considered mind the moving or controlling force in the cosmos and in human bodies, his account of the actual role of mind was limited. For one thing, the mind was not the creator of matter, since he held that matter is eternal. Moreover, he did not see in mind the source of any purpose to the natural world. Mind's role in the origin of particular things appears to be a mechanical explanation, principally through the process of separation. Things are the products of material causes, and mind appears to have no distinctive role apart from starting motion. Aristotle, who later distinguished between different kinds of causes, offered a mixed evaluation of Anaxagoras' views. He contrasts Anaxagoras with his predecessors, who attributed the origin of things to spontaneity and chance. According to Aristotle, when Anaxagoras said that reason was present as in animals, so throughout nature, as the cause of order and of all arrangement, he seemed like a sober man in contrast with the random talk of his predecessors. But adds Aristotle, Anaxagoras made use of the concept of mind only to a small extent. His criticism was that Anaxagoras uses reason as a divine machine for making the world, and when he is at a loss to tell from what cause something necessarily is, then he drags reason in. But in all other cases ascribes events to anything rather than reason. Anaxagoras seemed to provide an explanation only of how matter acquired its rotary motion, leaving the rest of the order of nature to be a product of that motion. Still, what Anaxagoras had to say about reason was great consequence in the history of philosophy, because he thereby introduced an abstract principle into the nature of things. He differentiated mind and matter. While he may not have described mind as completely immaterial, he nevertheless distinguished mind from the matter it had to work with. He stated that mind, unlike matter, is mixed with nothing but is alone, itself by itself. What makes mind different from matter is that it is the finest of all things and the purest, and it has all knowledge about everything and the greatest power. Thus, while matter is composite, mind is simple, but Anaxagoras did not distinguish two different worlds, that of mind and that of matter, but saw these two as always interrelated. Thus he writes, mind is there where everything else is. Although he had not worked out all the possibilities of his concept of mind, this concept was nevertheless destined to have enormous influence in later Greek philosophy. Just, passing the baton. I just feel like it's nice. That should happen more often, passing the baton, like off with knowledge and information. Like, I don't know, supposedly, the Egyptians with like the hieroglyphs. One, supposedly the people who wrote the hieroglyphs, if I'm saying that right, on the pyramids are not the same species or civilization that built the pyramids. I shouldn't have said species. I'm just going to say different civilization. Um, but fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. All right, so, oh my God, Jesus, I'm sorry. The persons with the bag, yeah, passing the baton. So, like Egyptians, Yeah, the people who wrote the hieroglyphs on the pyramids are not the civilization that built the pyramids, supposedly. Second, the people holding the bags were supposedly people who had prior knowledge or information from a previous civilization that was supposed to be transferred onto them so that they could, um, expand, grow, and thrive in the environment that they had because they had no prior knowledge of it. And so, like a lot of, I guess, I haven't done my own research in this, and so I'm just speaking out of turn here. But a lot of, I guess, origin stories for certain cultures, it's like they're two survivors from the top of a mountain, or they come out of a cave, or they survive this thing, and it's like only one person, and then like, and it's just there's similarities of that, like where there's a person who came and translated information to them. And it's just like it's important to do that, and I don't think people share enough. People share like we started sharing all this weird emotional shit instead of actual informational, like helpful things and like wisdom. Like we've replaced wisdom with emotion. We've replaced wisdom with emotion. It seems like, and it's fucked. So the guy who got the baton passed on to, or the group that got the baton passed on to, are called the atomists, the atomists. Oh, Leucippus and Democritus formulated a theory about the nature of things that bears an astonishing resemblance to some contemporary scientific views. However, it is difficult now to disentangle the contributions each individual made to this atomist theory. I'm going to redo that. Leucippus and Democritus formulated a theory about the nature of things that bears an astonishing resemblance to some contemporary scientific views. However, it is difficult now to disentangle the contributions each individual made to the atomistic theory. Their writings are lost for the most part, as is everything, bro. We at least know that Leucippus was the founder of the atomist school and that Democritus supplied much of the detailed elaboration of it. Leucippus was a contemporary of Empedocles, circa 490 to 430 BCE, but we know little else of his life beyond that. Democritus, born in Abdera, Thrace, is reputed to have lived 100 years, from 460 to 360 BCE. Through his immense learning and painstaking attempt to stake with clarity his abstract theory of atomism, Democritus inevitably overshadowed Leucippus. It is to Leucippus, though, that we must credit the central the it is to Leucippus, though, that we must credit the central contention of Adam, atomism. Leucippus is atomism. Okay, he made it. Atomism, Leucippus. Namely, that everything is made up of atoms moving in empty space. Yeah, okay. That everything is made up of atoms moving in empty space. I could see that. Sometimes I think all this shit is just like an illusion. All these physical objects are just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like there's that two slit experiment in physics where like once they go to measure the particles, it acts different. Like it knows you're watching. It's like it's weird that things act according to us being aware of them and orchestrating themselves in a way for us to observe them. Like what is that sense? It's fucking weird. Atoms and the void. According to Aristotle, the philosophy of atomism originated as an attempt to overcome the logical consequences of the Eleatic denial of space. Parmenides denied that there could be many independent things because everywhere there was being, in which case the total reality would be one. Specifically, he denied the existence of non-being or the void, in parentheses, empty space, because to say that there is the void is to say that the void is something. True. It is impossible, he thought, to say that there is nothing. Leucippus formulated his new theory precisely to reject this treatment of space or the void. That is interesting by acknowledging like, by putting the label on it, that means it exists. I think honestly, I don't know. I don't want to speak on that. All right, but yeah, like once you create a label for something, it kind of almost creates itself because you labeled it, so it's there now. We're creators. Leucippus affirmed the reality of space and thereby prepared the way for a coherent theory of motion and change, which had complicated Parmenides' concept of space. Was his thought. Okay. What had complicated Parmenides' concept of space was his thought that whatever exists must be material, and so space, if it existed, must be material. Leucippus, on the other hand, thought it possible to affirm that space exists without having to say it at the same time that it is material. Thus, he described space as something like a receptacle that could be empty in some places and full in others. As a receptacle, space or the void could be the place where objects move, and Leucippus apparently saw no reason for denying this characteristic of space. Without this concept of space, it would have been impossible for Leucippus and Democritus to develop their view that all things consist of atoms. According to Leucippus and Democritus, the nature of things consists of an infinite number of particles or units called atoms. Leucippus and Democritus ascribed to these atoms the two chief characteristics that Parmenides had ascribed to the one, namely indestructibility and eternity. Whereas Parmenides had said that reality consists of a single one, the atomists now said that there are an infinite number of atoms, each one being completely solid in itself. These atoms contain no empty spaces and therefore are completely hard and indivisible. They exist in space and differ from each other in shape and size, and because of their small size, they are invisible. Since these atoms are eternal, they did not have to be created. Nature consists, therefore, of two things only: space, which is a vacuum, and atoms. The atoms move about in space, and their motion leads them to form the objects we experience. The atomists did not think it was necessary to account for how atoms first began moving in space. The original motion of the atoms, they thought, was similar to the motion of dust particles as they dart off in all directions in a sunbeam, even when there is no wind to impel them. Democritus said that there is no absolute up or down, and since he did not ascribe weight to atoms, he thought that atoms could move in any direction. Things as we know them have their origin in motion of the atoms. Moving in space, the atoms originally were single individual units. Inevitably, though, they began to collide with each other, in cases to which their shapes were such as to uh, in cases in which their shapes were such as to permit them to interlock, they began to form clusters. In this, the atomists resembled the Pythagoreans, who said that all things are numbers. Things like numbers are made up of combinable units. For the atomists, things are simply combinations of various kinds of atoms. Mathematical figures and physical figures are therefore similar. In the beginning, then, there were atoms in space. Earth atom is like the Parmenidean one. One, though, this is all right. Redo that. In the beginning, then, there were atoms in space. Earth atom is like the Parmenidean one, but though they are indestructible, they are in constant motion. The atomists described earth, air, fire, and water as different clusters of changeless atoms, the product of the movement of originally single atoms. These four elements were not primeval roots of other things as earlier philosophers believed, but were themselves the product of the absolutely original stuff, the atoms. The atomists produced a mechanical conception of the nature of things. For them, everything was the product of the collision of atoms moving in space. Their theory had no place in it for the element of purpose or design, and their materialistic reduction of all reality to atoms left no place for a creator or designer. They saw no need to account either for the origin of the atoms or for the original motion impelling the atoms. The question of origins could always be asked, even about God. To ascribe eternal existence to the material atoms seemed as satisfactory as any other solution. The theory of atomism, envisioned by Leucippus and Democritus, had a long and influential history. So formidable was this theory that, although it went into a decline during the Middle Ages, it was revived during the Renaissance and provided science with its working model for centuries to come. Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727, still thought in atomistic terms when he wrote his famous Principia Mathematica. Mathematica. In this work, he deduced the motion of the planets, the comets, the moon, and the sea. And then there's a quotation, I assume, from it. I wish we could devise the rest of the phenomena of nature by the same kind of reasoning from mechanical principles, for I am induced by many reasons to suspect that they may all depend upon certain forces by which the particles of bodies, by some causes high, hit, hurt, hit, hetero no, unknown, hetero no, unknown, by some cases hetero unknown, are either mutually impelled to inwards one another and cohere in regular forms. Damn, that is fucking tricky. Okay, all right. I wish we could devise the rest of the phenomena of nature by the same kind of reasoning from mechanical principles, for I am induced by many reasons to suspect that they may all depend upon certain forces by which the particles of bodies, by some causes hitherto unknown, are either mutually impelled towards one another and cohere in regular figures, or are repelled and recede from one another. Although Newton assumed God had set things in motion, his physical analysis of nature was restricted to the mechanical principles of matter moving in space. After Newton, atomism held sway until quantum theory and Einstein gave contemporary science a new conception of matter, which denied the attribute of indestructibility to the atoms. Yeah, they fucking figured that out. Yeah, they figured that one out, buddy. Damn. I just like how it relates to everything so much. And I hope it's like still like some way getting through to you guys as well when I'm reading this. Um, yeah, no, it just makes me think. It's not really words to say about it, it just makes me think. I wish we could devise the rest of the phenomena of nature by the same kind of reasoning from mechanical principles. I don't know, it just makes me think of like all the similarities that you see. So like I don't know, can't you? I don't know. Theory of knowledge and ethics. Besides describing the structure of nature, Democritus was concerned with two other philosophical problems, the problems of knowledge and the problem of human conduct. Being a thorough materialist, Democritus held that thought can be explained in the same way that any other phenomenon can, namely as the movement of atoms. He distinguished between two different kinds of perception, one of the senses and one of the understanding, both of these being physical processes. When our eyes see something, this something is an effluence, or the shedding of atoms by the object, forming an image. These atomic images of things enter the eyes and other organs of sense and make an impact upon the soul, which itself is made up of atoms. Democritus further distinguishes between two ways of knowing things. These are two forms of knowledge, the true born and the illegitimate. It is to the illegitimate belong all these sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. The true born is quite apart from these. What distinguishes these two types of thought is that whereas true born knowledge depends only on the object, illegitimate knowledge is affected by the particular conditions of the body or of the person involved. For example, two people can agree that what they have tested is an apple, true born. However, they can still disagree about the apple's taste, illegitimate knowledge, with one saying the apple is sweet and the other saying it is bitter. So, according to Democritus, by the senses we know in truth nothing sure. Fuck. So according to Democritus, by the senses we know in truth nothing sure, but only something that changes according to the disposition of the body and other things that enter into it or resist it. Still, Democritus had to say that both sensation and thought are the same type of mechanical process. Concerning ethics, Democritus developed a very ambitious set of rules for human behavior. In general, he maintained that the most desirable goal of life is cheerfulness. That's a nice word for it. And we best achieve this through moderation in all things, along with the cultivation of culture. All right, yeah, that's pretty fucking spot on. With the emergence of ethics as its primary concern, philosophy reached one of its major watersheds, closing out the first era. When the principal question had been about the natural physical order, now people would ask more searching questions about how they should behave. Now people would ask more searching questions about how they should behave. And then that's when we get into the sophists and Socrates. But we won't get into that tonight because that's going to be, it's going to be a lot. That shit is just interesting. Like, yeah, like, I don't know, Democritus is like holding through the Middle Ages and things like that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, uh, leaving something like that, and not even in an ego way, but like just thinking, like changing the course of thought to that degree. Excuse me. It'll be this guy. But yeah, changing thought to that degree. I think that's so admirable and so bold and courageous to like, yeah, to like accept that this is how reality is presented to you, but it's not how it truly is. And then just stand up and saying that and then getting to prove it, like, and then people are going like, yeah, okay, he's right. For centuries. It's interesting. And we're talking just about people, individual people. One, Democritus, Pythagorean, what was it, Thales, Zeno, fucking Heraclitus. Um, I know there's another one I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I lost it. But anyways, it's just like they were just people. I'm just a person. I would be considered people in the group, and so would you. And it's like I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand where the ambition went. Because it's not energy can't be destroyed, right? I mean, I think they were kind of mentioning some of that too. Like, where did it go? What are we using it on? It's there somewhere, like in our spiritual realm, but we're not harnessing it. And then I don't want to sound spooky with all that shit, but like, yeah, it's out there. But why are we feeding it with? Why are we letting something feed off of it rather than something actually fruitful for our existence further on? It's just crazy. That's why I said, fucking, I'm gonna read a philosophy textbook because it's like, yes, this is like, so much. Yeah, I don't give a fuck what you think. Like, this is important to know, or important to at least just consider, think about. Not the people necessarily, but just the way of analyzing your existence. I don't remember what philosophers or psychologists said this, but it's like a life unexamined was a life unlived, and it's like that might have even Marcus Aurelius. I don't even know that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anybody, but I know someone said that a life unexamined is a life unlived, and it's just yeah. What are you doing? If you're not like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It makes no damn sense. And I feel like yeah, people are just meandering, but having a great time meandering. Like don't get in their way. Like they're having a great time. But yeah, I don't know. That's how it's always gonna end. I don't know. it would just be so interesting if everybody cared. And maybe that's just too grandiose of a thing to ask, but like, not even care about like one specific thing, but just cared for self development in an actual honorable or admirable way. That's why, like, I forgive me if I say his name wrong, but Slodjev Zizek. I know his last name is Zizek, but he speaks about how soft fascism is like the next form of government that's basically taking over. Um, it's interesting. He spoke at the Oxford Union. You could just look it up. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like he did, he labeled it soft fascism, and it's interesting how he describes it. Um, but yeah, he just basically said like you have to bring back accountability and not okay. He didn't use the word accountability. He used shame. He said we need to bring back a general sense of shame and how other countries are instituting tradition in order to, I guess, have that be a byproduct of it. But yeah, I think the lack of tradition causes social disorder, and then it's just like there's no shame here on this rock right now. At least in my experience, like the weirdest shit gets popular and promoted and in your face, and it's just like, and people feed it or feed off of it, love it, can't get enough of it, want more. And I just feel like if the things in front of their face change, they would as well. And I don't think that's so hard. That there's some conversation about that with like what human nature truly is, and it's like, bro, we're like rats in a fucking scientific lab. This is the only um, orchestration of things we've seen it as. That does not mean it's the only successful one. And I'm not saying I have an idea of a successful one, or that this might even be an unsuccessful one. I'm just saying that there has to be another way of looking at there's no way this is the only way we could have developed. I don't I just I find that hard to believe. Um, I feel like at a certain point we were just so like not untainted, but yeah, like just pure. And they talked about that too. But it's just like at some point we're just so pure, but then like this thing gets into us. I don't know. And I don't think it's human nature. Like I don't like that excuse. I think that's an excuse. It's not human nature. You decide who you want to be. So shut the fuck up about that. Oh, it's just human nature. Like no, person's either a fucking scumbag, douchebag, call him whatever the fuck he is. It's not human nature. Like it's not. It's not our nature to act out of line like certain ways, and it's like it's okay to say so. You know, fuck. Like who will be the next I mean, Slavej, maybe Slajev Zizek. Like, he is out there. And there are others, absolutely. I'm not listing names of anybody now at all, but I'm just saying, like, there are people actively out there doing this. But why there isn't more genuine interest in that, and why the general interest seems to be where it is, it's not healthy for a species. Like, it's not. I just think we should feed our brains with better things. Big ass books. Fuck a screen. Even though this is on the screen, you're watching me fucking on YouTube or whatever. But this is the way to get out there nowadays. And this is how it should be used informationally, not entertainment all the time. Entertainment has its place, but I don't know. I feel like even the informational shit's become entertainment now. like they play by the same rules, so it's not really informational anymore. They are just trying to like get little sound bites and make it catchy and make you like just want to like stay looking at it, you know. Um, and it's like you can't just sit down and listen and watch something anymore. It's strange. And again, that's not human nature. That's just some shit that's been programmed into us because of our environment. I do not believe in human nature. Fuck human nature. I like that. That's the next part of the book. Was the sophist and Socrates like talking about the way they should behave or the way that we should behave. Because like I don't know if there should be any rules to it or not. I don't think I've made a stance on that really yet, but I know that I've heard intelligent people talk about how you kind of have to have again like tradition in order to prevent social disorder or decay. So you need some sort of like netting around it, like meta rules to control the thing. But like I don't know what that means, and I don't mean meta with Facebook or whatever the hell. I'm just saying like uh, over encompassing set of rules that are just guidelines to live by. They're not fucking, you know, they're not terms of use on Apple and shit, right? That's what I mean. Um, and I don't know. I just, again, like, I think that we were brought up in a certain environment that led to this. And I think if we weren't, we could have created something different and more, I don't want to say humane, but like, what we're turning into, I don't feel like is humane. I just feel like we're going more artificial with everything, with our emotions, with our interactions, with our friendships, like relationships. It's all becoming less substance, and it's just not good. That's why, like, when they talk about the void and things like that, I don't know. I feel like the void is a place that you can kind of like go to and not realize you're there because there's so many distractions to stop you from realizing it. You know? Yes, just wake up.